If you're a young college football fan, you probably aren't aware that Tennessee has a long and historic run in college football. They are a blue blood. They are a near blue blood. We can have that argument some other day. But Tennessee has an illustrious history. And you probably don't know that because Tennessee has been mediocre for a long, long time. But Tennessee and Alabama just played one of the best football games you're going to ever see, with one of the great conclusions to a game that you will ever see. Tennessee knocks off Alabama 52-49 in Knoxville. Huge game in the SEC. Enormous result for Tennessee, more so than Alabama. But for Tennessee football, is a 9-point favorite with Bryce Young quarterbacking well for Alabama. Tennessee pulls it out 52-49. Did you see the finish? It was something else. As Alabama came down the field and went for the game-winning field goal. Will Reichard had been money for a long, long time, and he's in a slump. 3 of his last 7, and he missed from 50 yards, I believe. 50 yards for Will Reichard with 15 seconds left. 15 seconds, an eternity for a Josh Heupel offense with Hendon Hooker at the controls. The Tennessee offense had some issues third and fourth quarter. There was a stretch of time in which, after leading 28-10, that Bama's defense really looked good, really looked solid in taking care of the Tennessee offense for a time. But man, Hendon Hooker delivered 2 passes, one to Keaton on the crossing route, and then the other one went down the seam to Brew McCoy, who I thought that was a phenomenal catch. He came back to the football. He outfought the defender. That was the game. That was the game right there. Hooker delivered. McCoy delivered. He outfought the defender, got down on the ground with 2 seconds left. Tennessee had saved its timeouts. It had 2 timeouts that were desperately needed. Otherwise, they don't win the game. They go to overtime, but desperately needed those timeouts and were able to get both of those timeouts in play in those final 15 seconds to set up the game-winning field goal. And one of the uglier game-winning field goals you're going to see from Chase McGrath, knuckleball. And from the angle that the TV crew shot it at CBS from behind the kicker, I thought it was going to come up short. It was a good thing it was a 40-yard attempt and not a 45-yard attempt, because he hit the knuckleball, or maybe, as Gary Danielson said, it was more like a whirly bird. It wasn't a knuckleball. It did have a little rotation to it on the side, but he kicked it, and it did not go end over end. It was sideways. It was twisting side to side, but man, it cleared the crossbar. Now Chase McGrath's a hero. Nobody's going to remember how ugly it looked. 52-49. And so all the questions about Tennessee, how good is Tennessee? These are 2 excellent football teams. This is the top of college football right now. This is Bama. Bama is still going to compete for the SEC championship. Bama is Bama. Yes, they've got some issues. Is this a vintage Bama team? Probably not. But is this team good enough to win the national championship? Yes, they are. They are still good enough to win the national championship. Every time somebody loses, a lot of people out there tend to say, well, then they weren't very good. We're getting to a point in the season, very good teams are playing each other. And these are 2 of the top 6 or 7 teams in the country. And it was just a great football game. Not a lot of defense, although played at times. And Tennessee tried to give it away with about, let's see, we'll go through the play-by-play here just in regards to, and you can see the stats on the screen, which I have not looked at. They are probably phenomenal, because at one point, with about 12, 13 minutes left in the game, each team had just under 500 yards of total offense. But man, Tennessee's opening drive was a work of art. They scored a touchdown. They held Bama on a 3-and-out. But Bama's second drive, boy, Bryce Young showed that his arm is healthy. He's fine. He could throw the deep ball. He could put it zip on it. He also threw across his body when he had to roll left. He threw a beautiful pass to Isaiah Bond. Kobe Prentice made a ridiculous catch on a ball that was thrown away. Jahmyr Gibbs, what can we say about this guy? I don't know how many times in this game Jahmyr Gibbs got the handoff in the backfield, had a Tennessee defender like at his feet like that, and just boom, was able to one way and then the other. The footwork from Jahmyr Gibbs it's top level. It is top shelf for sure. Jahmyr Gibbs was phenomenal in this game. He scored the touchdown. Jalen Hyatt had a game for the ages. Remarkable game. I'll have to check out the numbers. He was all over the place, just catching deep balls, and they a couple times stacked him up with another Tennessee wide receiver. There were two Alabama defensive backs. They crisscrossed them. Then that matched up Jalen Hyatt on the safety, and the safety couldn't keep up with him. It was Helms a couple times, and Jalen Hyatt just right past him. So that was a huge series of plays for Tennessee, of course. The Tennessee defense for getting ripped up for 49 points. You know, there were key points in this game. You know, Bama had a first and goal. They got a first and goal stop to make it 21-10. Did not give up the touchdown there. Remember that Bama muffed a punt. Robinson thought that a teammate had touched the punt, and so he tried to get on it. Tennessee got the fumble recovery from Christian Charles. What's up with Bama's defensive backfield? We saw them look really lousy against Texas. And then in the game against Texas A&M, and Texas A&M's offense is nothing to marvel at. And guys like Evan Stewart in particular would get these jump balls. So the Bama defensive backs really need to get coached up here. The wide receivers, those were the two units, right? For Bama, defensive backs, wide receivers that had question marks. Well, the wide receivers, they are not going to make us forget the vintage Alabama wide receiver groups of the last 10 or 12 years. So none of the great wide receivers at this point, at least in the current wide receivers' careers, are going to match up with Calvin Ridley or Julio Jones or Henry Ruggs or Jerry Jeudy, Jalen Waddle, Jamison Williams, on and on and on. Those guys, no. But Ja'Cory Brooks is starting to be a go-to guy. Ja'Cory Brooks had some big plays. Cameron Latu, the tight end, he's a really good player, of course. Just a phenomenal game. But Bama had 16 penalties. That's the all-time school record in this game. Tennessee could have blown it. There was about 8.5 minutes left, and Hendon Hooker and Jabari Small messed up on the mesh point play, and that was a gift, a complete gift. And when you give Alabama a gift in a game like this with 8 minutes left, when you were up by 18 points, that usually spells defeat. You usually don't come back from that. But credit to Tennessee for coming back from that miscue. And Hendon Hooker, again, he is my Heisman front runner right now. Hendon Hooker is my Heisman front runner. This was an outstanding performance by him. Completed a fourth down play, a couple third down plays, obviously on the final drive, not the final drive, but the actual drive before that tied the game at 49 when Hyatt again ran the slant and they scored the touchdown. And boy, again, it almost looked like the game was over because Tennessee's driving. They got the 4th and 5. There's the deflected interception with Kool-Aid McKinstry coming back for Bama. They're already up a touchdown. There's only 3 minutes left. You figure the game's over. But whoa, down near the goal line, there's a flag on the field, and Tennessee gets new life on 4th and 5. And that's, well, they get the first down off of that, of course. And again, Hyatt scores the touchdown. Bama comes right back. Bryce Young's phenomenal. He had a great game. He has such pocket presence. He has uncanny ability to know when to run, when to keep it, when to just move around in the pocket, when to escape the pocket and still keep his eyes downfield. He hit Ja'Cory Brooks on a key 3rd and 10 on a crossing route to keep that drive alive that set up the potential game-winning field goal that was missed again by Will Reichert. So, shoot, I want to look at these numbers that we've posted here on the screen because they have got to be crazy. with Bryce Young hitting 35 of 52 for 455, 2 touchdowns. Jahmyr Gibbs was insane in this game, 3 touchdowns, 103 rushing. Cameron Latou, he's a tremendous player and blocks downfield. Had a number of key blocks in this game. And again, we mentioned Ja'Cory Brooks. He, to me, is the best of the wide receivers. And I certainly thought that after he caught the game-winning touchdown or the game-tying touchdown to send it to overtime in the Iron Bowl last year. Jermaine Burton only used a couple times with 2 catches. Kobe Prentice is starting to be a bit of a factor. JoJo Earl had the one big 42-yard catch. Will Anderson and Dallas Turner certainly made their presence known a number of times in this game. There's Hendon Hooker, 21 of 30, 385, 5 TDs. Jalen Wright was running hard. The Tennessee rushing attack looked really good in the first half with Wright and Small. Bottled up in the second half. Alabama tightened up its rush defense for sure. There's the monster game by Jalen Hyatt, 6 for 207, 5 TDs out of a receiver. Princeton Fant, the tight end, did you see how he was used? There was a 2-point conversion there to him. And I see only 3 catches for 24 yards, but my goodness, it just seemed like they were all key conversions for Princeton Fant. He's a monster. He's a big dude, long arms. Ramel Keaton has been integral to this offense in recent weeks. We've just discovered him in the last few weeks. Of course, Cedric Tillman could not go. It was talked about all week that he may be able to suit up and play for Tennessee. Brew McCoy had, of course, the reception that set up the field goal that we talked about off the top. And that was just an exceptional coming back to the football and within inches being able to snag that away from the DB. Otherwise, we're probably playing overtime right now. Great stuff. Trayshawn Holden had a drop. The Bama receivers were better than usual, but still not what we've seen in the past. Let me look at a few comments if you guys have anything, but I just wanted to jump on here real quick to talk Bama, Tennessee, because it was just a phenomenal game. A lot of people are happy across college football. That's all there is to it. It's Alabama, and they are the king. They are the gold standard, and people want to see them go down. Just even if you've got nothing against Nick Saban or Alabama, just want to see it be more interesting than it has been. And this does not eliminate Alabama, of course, in any way. The real MVP, can Tennessee win the national championship? Well, let's understand they were playing this game at home. They had a tremendous home field advantage. They gifted a touchdown to Alabama. They had some other things work against them in this game. So they need average defensive play. They didn't quite get that tonight. I saw that last week against LSU, and LSU's offense is light years away from Alabama's, of course. But, Hummus Hero says Tennessee's defense is about as steady as a wagon with 2 broken axles. But that offense is lethal as can be. I'm going to credit the Alabama offense. It's one of the top 5 easily in the country. So there's a little bit working there in both cases. Yeah, we did have some other tremendous games at 3:30. The Oklahoma State TCU game with TCU coming back for the victory. That's a huge game, of course, in the Big 12. And, of course, we're going to be here after Florida State Clemson and after the primetime games, LSU, Florida, USC, and Utah, to take your phone calls. Dave says, let's do some math SEC style. Tennessee's 1, Georgia 2, Bama 3, Ohio State 4. That could be my top 5, actually, or top 4 coming up. We shall do those calculations, of course, late night tonight. Mozart's Ghost, good to see you. Nice to see the Vols pull it out at the end. Consider this, folks. This is a Tennessee program that is a proud program and a pillar of college football. I understand that doesn't resonate with many of you because you've been watching college football for 5 or 10 years and Tennessee's been nothing. They had lost, was the number 28 or 29 consecutive games against top 5 teams and like 18 or 19 straight against top 10 teams. Had not just finished in the top 25 since 2016, 6 years ago. It's been that long. Just top 25 team, top 15 team. You got to go back to 2004. Top 10 team at Tennessee, top 10 in the country, 2001. I posted a video on Miami during the offseason in which I looked at all the teams that had finished in the top 10 in the country since Miami last finished in the top 10, and they've finished in the top 10 more recently than Tennessee. There are like practically 50 schools that have finished in the top 10 in the nation at the end of the season since Tennessee last did in 01. And if you're familiar with that 01 team, they were a favorite, taking on Nick Saban and LSU in the SEC championship game to get to the BCS championship game. And they blew a lead, blew a great game. And Tennessee could have gone to the BCS championship game in 01. Didn't get there. And the last time they won the SEC was 98. And of course, that was the last national championship, which brings us to, that was 1998. We saw, of course, Tennessee's quarterback in 1997, a guy you may have heard of, Peyton Manning. He was at the game, and they were celebrating their SEC championship from 25 years ago. Could it be actually 25 years ago? I remember watching that game against Rodney Craig and Auburn. Wow. Hummus Hero letting us know that the goalpost went down. I did not see that. I was setting up. I got right on this. Antoine, Bama fans going crazy talking about blaming their kicker. Bama, you need to blame your defense. You gave up over 40 points. Fools. Yeah, you got to do better than that on defense. Tennessee is difficult to deal with, but yeah, 52 points. Redman, every Buckeye fan laughing at Bama's stout defense. Well, the Buckeyes could have to line up against this Tennessee offense. Hummus Hero, I agree. People say that kind of stuff, Mark, but Bama should have lost to Texas and barely escaped A&M, and I think it's safe to say they will likely lose again this year. I don't know that that's safe to say. Wouldn't surprise me in any such way, but yeah, they should have lost to Texas. They were a better team than Texas A&M. They gave Texas A&M a lot of gifts in that game. They were the much better team against Texas A&M, but they could have lost. Texas A&M was throwing the ball in the end zone at the end of the game, and probably we could have a field day tearing Jimbo Fisher to shreds on his atrocious play calling at the end of that game for sure. Not giving these teams a pass for poor defense. Yes, it was poor defense, but it was more so exceptional offense. I think you guys have heard me on here enough say I'm not crazy about the 52-49 games because it's typically awful, awful defense. Now, this was not great defense by any stretch, but these are capable defense. Alabama has one of the roughly 5 best defenses in the country. They just do. They still do. The offensive execution in this game, we could go through tons of games during a college football season that are scored in the 40s and 50s and just find awful defense. Guys running free in the secondary. Constantly just missed tackles all over the place. Just awful business decisions made all over the place. That wasn't this game. Now, the defense wasn't good. That's not what I'm saying. But Alabama's defense is this is not an Alabama secondary. This is not an Alabama secondary. Wow. The secondary's pretty bad. Pretty bad. Antoine says Alabama needs to be ashamed of themselves leaving their corners on an island all game. Alabama's defensive coordinator needs to be fired. Yeah, that's, Tennessee did not tear them up on the ground. They were moving the ball on the ground in the first half, and Alabama contained them in the second half. Why not expose yourself a little bit, thinking you're stout enough in run defense if you're Bama? you're not going to get completely gashed by that Tennessee ground game, which is good. It's a good ground game, but Jalen Hyatt, 5 touchdowns. He was abusing people. Yes, they should have adjusted. Should have adjusted. Hummus Hero, Tennessee is Ohio State last year. That's a decent comparison. I can see that. Certified Clapaholic, congratulations. Tennessee Volunteers. Bama got mad help from the refs and still lost. Tennessee is proving to be a dangerous team this past year. I do think the officials were calling the proper pass interference calls. There was one not called in the end zone. So there was one not called in the end zone. Bama goes down. Certified says Michigan better jump Clemson again after the way we dismantled Penn State. Ranking Clemson ahead of Michigan last week was disrespectful. I don't agree. Clemson had a much better resume than Michigan. It was not close through last week. We will, of course, reassess. We've got a better way of doing things. I think you know that, Certified Clapaholic. And if you're not aware, check it out. Comes out tomorrow. Top 25 that actually makes sense. Yes, Mozart, Bryce Young, phenomenal. And David reminds us, as we talked about 5 or 10 minutes ago, Cedric Tillman did not play. Best receiver. So, yeah, just a lot of great stuff here. I don't want to keep everybody on the line since I just wanted to jump on, give my thoughts about Alabama, Tennessee, of course, celebrate a great game in college football. And we have 3 or 4 really important games going on that have just started. Florida State, Clemson, important, of course. Utah, USC, enormous in the Pac-12. Purdue and Nebraska is big in the Western Division of the Big Ten. Don't count out the Huskers, although I'm counting them out because I don't think they're good enough. But mathematically, don't count them out. They're 2-1. If they win this one against Purdue, the winner of the Purdue-Nebraska game will be sitting atop the Big Ten Western Division, along with Illinois, who had a huge win today. And of course, we also have LSU and Florida. Not really, more if you're an NFL scout, you want to see Florida and LSU play. It matters little toward any kind of championship. Although, again, mathematically, LSU's only lost 1 in the conference, and they do play Alabama later. So LSU's still alive. But how about Tennessee and Georgia coming up in a few weeks? How about Tennessee and Georgia? But great to see everyone. I'm going to be back. And Charles Johnson, I always appreciate you. Hope you're listening right this second, Charles, because you are always on here reminding everybody to smash the like button. That is very important. It helps me. I know everybody's geeked up about college football, of course. That's why we're here. But please just take a second to hit the like button. It helps us out tremendously. It's just a YouTube thing that they like to see, and it helps the algorithm and pushes the video out there. So thank you so much for being here again. We'll be live after all the primetime games here. So approximately 11:30 Eastern time, taking your calls here at the Voice of College Football. Thanks for being here, and we will see you in just a few hours. Enjoy the games tonight. I know I am.